Hey everyone, it's Jane. Such a nice day today. I thought I might come and try and do this outside. So forgive me if everything goes pear-shaped in a moment. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about the book that I read on the weekend, which is Lagoon by Nnedi Okorafor. I'm probably saying that entirely wrong. This is a sci-fi story, basically. There's aliens appear at the very beginning. It's actually some time since I've read a first contact story. It's an interesting type of story that raises some fairly unique questions. The special thing about this one is that it's set in Lagos in Nigeria, the largest city in Africa, and that is a very conscious choice, and a lot of the story is really about Africa, about Lagos in particular. So the opening of our story is at Bay Beach, a waterside area, seemingly somewhere quite central in Lagos, fronting onto the lagoon, I'm assuming, of the title. And our three characters come from three different directions and their paths intersect on Bay Beach. One is a musical celebrity, a hip-hop artist who has been performing in a concert that night. Another is an army officer who was involved in a physical altercation with his superior officer and other people from his patrol because he tried to intervene in his superior officer assaulting a woman earlier that night. Our third character is a female marine biologist, and earlier in that evening she just had the first ever physical fight with her husband. So these three characters, all quite caught up in their own issues, come walking down to the beach. Their paths intersect, and pretty much as their paths intersect, something happens in the water. Initially it seems like it's a tsunami or something like that, but essentially a big wave reaches out and grabs those three characters and draws them into the water. It turns out that what's happened is that an alien craft has landed, and the visitors have chosen these three people to be their first contact. The three characters who we meet on the beach are our three central characters throughout the book, but we also have other sections of the book from a number of different points of view. We get part of the marine biologist's husband's story, we get her children, we get some of their point of view, we get other acquaintances of these three and a few other people. We get the Nigerian Prime Minister, we get a whole bunch of different points of view, but these three characters are our central anchor in the story. The way the story deals with the aliens, I actually found really interesting, even though the contact story part of it is probably the least unique. The story maintains a very ambiguous relationship to the aliens. As we change from point of view to point of view, it is unclear whether the aliens' arrival is a positive or a negative thing. Different characters have quite a different take on that, and the book remains ambiguous about it, which I thought was a really interesting choice. We also have, apart from human characters, but also with non-human inhabitants of Earth, in particular sea creatures. The first contact is water, and we have a marine biologist, and there's a lot of stuff about water and aquatic life in this. And so in particular sea creatures, but also other non-human characters, some of which probably be defined as fantasy elements. So we have native spirits and stuff like that who are part of Earth, not of an alien nature, who are also interacting with the story as it progresses. There are a few things about the book that were less than satisfactory. One thing in particular that I found a little hard to stomach was there is a virtually moustache twirling villain character in it who is a cardboard cutout evil Christian preacher, and there certainly wasn't anything else in the text to balance that. So while faith and religion actually does get a relatively large airing in this, all the Christian characters are either con people or dupes, and most of the Muslim characters are played as hypocrites, in terms of their faith. I found that a little bit unsatisfying. So that's one of the weaknesses as far as I was concerned. But there are many strengths to this book. So I learned a whole bunch of stuff about Lagos from this book. I learned what a 419 is, for example. That's something that comes up almost on the first page, and it comes up again and again, and eventually it's actually explained what that is. By which point I think I'd almost figured it out. But yeah, so I learned that. I learned a bit about different groups within that kind of society and the sort of the texture of their lives. There are sections of the book where the dialogue is in Pidgin English. There is actually a glossary at the end of the book, and at some point I did actually flip forward and have a look at that, but I wasn't keeping that open and checking word for word. I found that even though I didn't understand everything that was going on in the Pidgin sections, I understood enough. And I really appreciate that it was kept in Pidgin, because it really does give a flavour. Language is a real in to thought processes and people's inner worldviews. So I thought that was, I found that really good. There was enough of it for it to feel less than tokenistic, but there wasn't so much that it made the book unreadable. So anyway, I enjoyed this. It wasn't a perfect book, but it was very enjoyable. Seriously, I haven't read a first contact novel in ages, and I certainly have never read a first contact novel set in Africa before, so this was new ground for me and I really enjoyed it. Lagoon by Nnedi Okorafor. If you read this, I would love to hear your take on it in the comments below. Or if you have another really good first contact story that you'd like to recommend, I'd love to hear that as well. So anyway, I will talk to you later. Bye!